Now our next step, this is where we'll be making lots of little dots, is I then say, okay, it's supposed to be 1 inch. So that's the top of my other dart. All right, so from this dot to that dot, from this dot to that dot is 1 inch. Then I move my ruler over and measure, stick with me here, I measure 1 1/4 inches away and place another dot. Okay, let me make these nice and big for you so you can see those. And so that's where the start of the second dart is. And then I make another dot 1 inch away. Okay, so this is where, I don't want to mark it, but this is where we'll have one dart going down like that and another dart going down like that. So by the time you finish marking, you should have 4 dots. Now we'll repeat this process for the front, because this is really the hardest part of making this pattern. Okay, so we're going to look at front waist arc plus 5/8, because that's the dart intake for her, plus another 5/8 because there's 2 darts in the front, and 1/4 inch ease, and for her that's 8 5/8. So we start from the outside and measure in 8 5/8, and that we call M, as in McFan, your favorite sewing teacher. And then we start making our dart placements. And so for her, it was 3 1/2 inches. So 3 1/2. Okay, so we make a dot, big old dot. You don't have to make yours so big. Mine just have to be that big. Do 5/8, because that's the size. And then we're going to do a 1 1/2. This can't be right. But this is the process. I can tell already her darts are too far out to the side. But I don't know, maybe with her body that's how it's going to look. Okay? Look in the front. I'm used to seeing them further out, but here we have one dart and another dart. But this is why we do make a muslin. We make a test sample before we do everything. Okay, before we make our final product. All right, I had you get a handy dandy hip curve, and that's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to take our hip curve and we're going to line it up along this line here, our middle line. We're going to keep moving it down until we see, aha! Okay, way up here. Okay, you see how I did that? You just move it down until you get this lines up with your middle line and K shows up. Now, we're going to count off our side hip depth, and that will help us figure out how long to make that line. So 9 5/8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is the side seam. From there up to the top. We're going to do the same thing on the front. Excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. Okay, so we're going to slide it up. And make sure this is in alignment with that straight line. Okay, and keep going up. There we go. Whoops. All right, so that you see the line right there? That's what we're shooting for. And so we know it's 9 5/8, so let me get my pen ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it starts right there and goes down. Okay, now remember, that's just my sister's measurement. I don't want you to say, oh, well, Dr. Julie said to make it 9 5/8. No, that's what it is for my sisters. Okay, so now we've got our side seams. And don't worry that they don't look exactly the same, because we're using different measurements in the front and the back. And that's a mistake I see a lot of newbies make, is they think everything has to be a mirror image of each other. And they don't, because our fronts and our backs are different than each other. Okay, our next step is to use our French curve. And you know what? I think I'm going to use the this hip curve for this. We're going to make a preliminary line. This is not our permanent line. This is our preliminary line. Now, we go from G, we're making a preliminary waistline. We go from G to right there, where they intersect, up to where K and our side seam intersect. And this is our temporary waistline. So I'm going to draw it lightly, but dark enough for you to see. This is where having different colored pencils really start coming in handy, because you got lines going all over the place. And then for the front, again taking the flat end, we start at H, and where these lines intersect, that's what we're going to draw our line to. Right? So we'll have just a little bit of curve, but not too much. Where's my line? There we go. Okay. Oops, it's way over there. I got a little crazy. So that's our temporary waistline. And you're going to see what we're going to do with that in a minute. Our next step is to draw our darts in. We made our dots. Now it's time to fill them in. We're going to find the exact middle of our dart. So for our back dart, for us, it's a 1/2 inch, because our back darts are 1 inch each. All right, and then we're going to make a little dot, just a little one, so that we know where we're working. And we're going to measure down 5.5 inches. Unless you're short, unless you're a petite or a junior, then you only measure down 5 inches. So measure straight down 5.5 inches and make a dot. Can you see that? And then we're going to do the same thing with our second dart. That'll make sense in a second. Measure down 5.5 inches. Now from that dart, we're going to put our pencil there, line our ruler up, and we're going to go straight through our dots. Straight through them. This is why using a pencil is good, because I can't erase that line that was off center. Okay, do it on the other one. Sharpie's a bit big. Okay. This is our back darts. Make a dot, and then I want you to make a big red circle around it. Now you're going to measure up 1/2 inch from there. Line it up with that center so you can make sure it's centered. 1/2 inch. You're going to make another dot right there in the middle and circle it with a big red circle. That's when we'll get to use our awl. We'll get to use our awl to make a big punch hole there. But these circles tell us, hey, pay attention here, so that we don't forget that they're there. Now we're going to do the same thing with our front. The front goes down only 3.5 inches, okay? So find the middle. These were 5/8. So to find the middle of 5/8, it's 5/16. You double the denominator. Okay, so this is where having those little bitty lines on a ruler help. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Having those 1/16 inch marks on your ruler. And you go down 3.5 inches. Do the same thing with the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoops. Let's try this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go down 3.5 inches. And then draw your lines up through your waist. Make them big and long. You're going to see why we need it nice and big and long in just a minute. And do it with the other one. We're almost there. We're almost there. In just a minute, you'll be able to say, hey, I can draft my own pattern. Now what do we do next? We draw a big red circle. And we go up 1/2 inch and make our line. Oh, it would be at the 3-inch mark. Oops, that one's a little wonky. Again, there. We make our big red circles. Let's make a few markings. So over here, I want you to line your ruler up with your back seam. Remember, this is your center back seam. In fact, let's write that on there. Center back. And we're going to go like that. And we're going to make our grain line. Remember, the grain line tells us what direction we should lay it on the fabric. And assuming that it's okay and can be laid either direction, you put arrows at both ends. Okay, and this is our center front. Mark up your pattern right all over it so that you remember everything. And we're going to, the center front is usually on the fold. So we're going to make a grain line, sort of. And we kind of go like this. Or this is what I do to help me remember. Like that. And then like that. And then I draw my little arrows to say, hey, that goes on the fold. Place on fold. And if you've been working with commercial patterns, this all should look familiar to you. These kinds of markings and stuff. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is cut it out, but we're not going to cut the top yet. So the mister's going to put it on pause while I cut this out.